in my class, really discussing sort of the exact scope of his research and how he was going to go forward with this thesis. Was kind of an interesting idea. And obviously, corruption is a big topic, relevant topic here in Indonesia. So Wanson says, I would like to thank God for giving me the wisdom and guidance throughout this thesis, for Mr. Booty for being a great advisor, and also all the teachers that have supported me and improved my thesis. My parents who never get tired of comforting me. Lastly, my friends who encourage me. All right, give me a second to set up the timer and I'll let you know when you can start. Oh, Wanson's title is No More Get Out of Jail Free Cards, the case for Indonesia to toughen its stance on corruption. All right, you can start when ready.
Imagine walking into a government office with a sign that glows, "No corruption allowed." Every time someone tries to cut a backroom deal, a strange parrot perches on the cage, "Not on my watch." This may sound like an insane cartoon movie, but it illustrates just how senseless corruption could be if no one is supervising. Picture the pesky raccoon that waits the trash bin in the middle of the night, always getting something it should not, leaving a huge mess behind. Every time the raccoon leaves a huge mess behind, a trapdoor would appear and catches the raccoon. This ridiculous image is the example of the necessity of extreme measures. Sometimes you must come up with a sharp solution for an unending issue. The origin of laws is deeply intertwined with the development of civilization. Early examples include divine commandments, such as those given to Adam and Eve, where disobedience lead to consequences like toil and pain during childbirth. In ancient Mesopotamia, King Hammurabi of Babylon established one of the earliest known legal codes around 1750 BC. The Code of Hammurabi included laws on family, contracts, and crimes, which often prescribed of an eye for an eye. These early legal systems laid the groundwork for modern laws that aim to maintain social order, protect individual rights, resolve disputes, and promote justice. Indonesia is grappling with numerous corruption cases. One of the incidents that reflect Indonesia's condition is the corruption committed by the former Minister of Communication and Information Technology, Johnny G. Plate. He was caught red-handed for being involved in a corruption case related to a 4G-based transceiver station infrastructure project. The calculation shows that Plate was found guilty for accepting bribery totaling about 12.1 billion rupiah. Consequently, he was punished to 15 years in prison, fined 1 billion rupiah, and had to reimburse 15.5 billion rupiah to the nation. This case is just one of the parts of corruption normalization in Indonesia, as indicated in the 2024 Corruption Perception Index, in which the score for Indonesia was 37 out of 100, where 0 indicates high corruption and 100 indicates very low corruption. Corruption occurs when an individual holding public office exploits their position, rank, or status for personal gain. Based on this premise, the following are some of the publicly corrupt behavior. A. Offering and soliciting bribes. B. Demanding a bribe in return for a service. C. Dishonest appropriation of property. D. Stealing or misappropriating funds entrusted to one's. And E. Favoritism bestowed upon relatives. F. Favoritism bestowed on close friends and associates. G. For one's own private classic example, purpose misapplication of government's material assets or properties. And H. Paying or receiving money to sway the opinions of people in authority. People's normalization of corruption allows it to become a habit and lead to the ignorance of the laws and punishment, especially in Indonesia, where the corruption rate is significantly high. Ultimately, decreasing the corruption rate is essential because it fundamentally determines the quality of life. This topic aims to raise awareness, although this world is gradually getting chaotic. At least educating people about this issue could slow down the process. A single act of corruption can harm many parties. For Indonesia itself, solving this long-standing enemy will open opportunities to maximize future potential. The Indonesian government attempts to fight massive corruption problems by establishing the Corruption Eradication Commission, also known as KPK, in 2002 during the period of President Megawati Soekarno-Putri. This organization has the authority to investigate cases independently from existing institutions like the police, which were seen as ineffective. However, in 2019, there were modifications in the law that significantly amended the KPK's power. Corruption acts like a disease that gradually destroys the vital organs of society. Just as a surgeon removes a cancer to save a patient, the strongest measures, including the death penalty, are necessary to eliminate the root of corruption before it destroys the entire system. With that, Indonesia should implement the death penalty towards corruptors for three main reasons: protect the nation's budget, enhance social order, and uplift ethical values. Firstly, it is crucial for us to acknowledge that the high rates of corruption must be addressed urgently to protect Indonesia's national budget. To begin, efficient allocation of funds can transform the education sector. In Indonesia, corruption inside the education sector has been significant concern, with numerous cases involving embezzlement, bribery, and misuse of funds earmarked for educational purposes. These corrupt practices hinders the nation's progress by compromising the quality of education. In China, the death penalty that was applied has achieved improvements on the educational system, such as reforming high school entrance exam, regulating off-campus tutoring, creating teacher rotation programs, and aligning academic disciplines with technological advancement and national priorities. Imagine a small village in Central Java, a school, once central to community, fell into disrepair. Leaking roofs, broken windows, and had been embezzled by corrupt officials. This revelation led to community meeting where residents demand accountability and pledge to fight against the misuse of resources intended for their children's education. This incident highlights how corruption not only misappropriates public funds but also harm the future of the next generation. By implementing the death penalty on corruptors, the citizens could receive excellent education, especially for young generation. 1,000 hands reach into the pockets of the poor, robbing their future for each corrupt officials who eludes retribution. Corruption will keep on spreading like a virus and deplete Indonesia. Indonesia's youth has a crucial role in surging the development of the nation. So, it is essential in fostering and protecting their future. Secondly, corruption in Indonesia's healthcare system diverts critical resources, inflates patient costs, and compromises care quality with problems like unfair hiring and poor purchasing processes that result in staff who aren't fully qualified. In contrast, China launched a sweeping anti-corruption campaign in 2023, targeting its healthcare sector, which accelerate the adoption of digital health technologies such as AI diagnostics, telemedicine, and electronic health records. Indonesia could consider similar measures, applying the death penalty law to enhance healthcare delivery and ensure equitable access for its citizens. As Mahatma Gandhi famously stated, it is health that is real wealth and not pieces of gold and silver. He emphasized the significance of physical wealth in comparison to good health. Indonesia must implement strict laws, anti-corruption measures, including the death penalty, to discourage misconduct and put the welfare of its people first in order to protect the health of its residents and guarantee fair access to high-quality care. Corruption in building projects puts people's life at risk. For example, during the 2001 Bush earthquake in India, more than 460,000 rural homes collapsed because inspections were weak and earthquake safety rules were not enforced, leading to massive damage. According to a University of Colorado, most earthquake deaths happen in countries where corruption is high because buildings are often constructed poorly and without proper safety checks. In China, the government strictly applied the death penalty towards Sun Zhikang, the former Guizhou province party head, who accepted bribes totaling more than 813 million yuan. This act highlights how crucial it is to combat corruption in order to protect the integrity and security of infrastructure projects. In order to protect the welfare of its people and avoid disasters like those that have occurred in China and India, Indonesia must act against corruption. Moving on to the next proof, the death penalty for corruptors is suggested as the strict solution to improve social order. This strategy seeks to restore public confidence to the government, prevent social unrest, and enhance the nation's reputation internationally. As stated by Setiawan and Jasaja, strict anti-corruption measures can increase public trust in the legal system, fostering a sense of justice and accountability. Enforcing the death penalty for major corruption shows that the government is serious about stopping corruption, which helps rebuild people's trust. In summary, by implementing the death penalty, Indonesia could acquire back the confidence of the people towards the government. Another beneficial effect of an enhanced social order is the prevention of social unrest. As a powerful deterrent that sends a message that corruption will not be tolerated, the death sentence can assist avoid social unrest brought by the corruption by reassuring the public that the government is dedicated to upholding social order and safeguarding their interests. According to a study, government aim to deter corrupt behavior, which eventually promotes social stability through capital sanctions. Corruption feeds the selfish and steals from the poor in the corridors of power. It suppresses optimism and restricts advancements as it tightens its hold on justice. In conclusion, to tackle the causes of inequality and unrest, a strengthened order against corruption is essential to improve social conditions. Furthermore, combating corruption with the death penalty could provide a strong deterrent effect and greatly improve the reputation of country internationally. According to Aditya, this will enhance its reputation internationally, draw in foreign investment, and fortify diplomatic ties. In result, a nation's international standing and economic opportunities could be greatly improved, being able to resolve responsibility and equity elements that draw in foreign capitals and promote diplomatic confidence. Lastly, Indonesia should implement the death penalty for corruptors as a means of uplifting ethical values. By eliminating the normalization of corrupt behavior, promoting personal integrity, and reinforcing a sense of duty, corruption becomes widespread in communities where unethical behavior is accepted and unpunished. According to a research, the systematic misuse of public resources is made easier by law penalties for high-ranking officials. Applying the death sentence in cases of serious corruption could be a potent deterrent, sending a strong message that such offenses are unacceptable and will result in the worst punishment. This strategy is backed by empirical research, which tells that countries with strict anti-corruption laws report lower levels of corruption. Bribery and fraud in government institutions have significantly decreased as a result of China's application of the death sentence in high-level corruption cases. By implementing similar policies, Indonesia will diminish the act of normalizing corruption. In Indonesia, corruption still undermines public confidence and impedes the country's progress. The death sentence for dishonest officials could be a potent deterrent to this problem, forcing public employees to behave honorably. Government employees are more ethically upright in nation with strict anti-corruption legislation, according to research. According to the World Bank 2020 report, harsh sanctions make people less likely to commit fraud since they are aware of the serious dangers involved. The saying, "a fish rots from the head down," while captures the situation in Indonesia, as high-level corruption sets the standard for authorities at lower levels. Although Indonesia has started education and public awareness campaign to promote honesty, their effort is constrained by political interference and weak enforcement. By guaranteeing the official put the interests of countries before their own interests, the death sentence would strengthen moral integrity. Research indicates that when high-ranking officials are subjected to severe sanction, it encourages lower-level employees to follow moral guidelines. The effectiveness of public campaigns and ethical education is diminished in the absence of strong legal enforcement. The idea that unethical action is wrong is reinforced by the death sentence. The foundation of moral governance is accountability. And in Indonesia, the weak treatment of these honest officials has damaged public confidence and promote an atmosphere of impunity. There is a disparity between law and enforcement since although the 2001 corruption law allows the death penalty in certain situations, no corrupt officials has ever received such a punishment. The deterrence impact that strict rules are meant to achieve is compromised by the discrepancy. According to research, harsh punishment can discourage corruption. This is demonstrated in nations like Singapore, where stringent and anti-corruption policies have improved public trust and government. Furthermore, strong accountability systems improve institutional legitimacy, draw in foreign investment, and spur economic growth, in addition to punishing misconduct. Good enforcement guarantees that public servants follow moral principles, which enhance the effectiveness of governance and service delivery. Applying the death sentence in cases of severe corruption will be a potent deterrent, reaffirming the rule of law and sending a strong message of zero tolerance. Such swift action is necessary to defend justice, rebuild public confidence, and guarantee that the governance serves the interests of all residents. Aside from arguments that support why Indonesia should be implemented toward corruptors, many people argued that the death penalty deprives human rights. But corruption itself is a serious violation of human rights. A single person action can have far-reaching negative effects on great number of people. Consider public money as a water in a storage to serve the entire community. When officials embezzle such water, it is similar to a leak that drains the storage, leaving the entire community thirsty. Therefore, it's unfair for those who violate many people's right to claim protection of their own. Justice must also consider the victims, not just the perpetrators. Others might oppose that the death penalty due to risk of wrongful conviction, but modern tools like forensic audits, digital tracking, and legal reviews have greatly improved accuracy. This advancement helps ensure only the truly guilty are punished. Applying the death penalty to corruptors sends a strong message that abuse of public resources will face the highest accountability. By declaring the death penalty toward corruptors, Indonesia can protect the funds for essential services, strengthen social order, and promote ethical values. This bold step marks a clear path toward transparency, justice, and national prosperity. The death penalty for corruptors is not a form of retribution, but it is a sincere appeal to safeguard the aspiration of every child who should have access to good education, every family that depends on a secure neighborhood, and every life that depends on having access to healthcare. Together, let's stand firm and declare that the wealth of Indonesia is not for thieves, and our values are not for sale. For once, let's forget all of our different backgrounds and work together to demand a change for our nation. So come, fight with me, let's light the spark of hope and make Indonesia a better place again. Thank you.
Thank you. Good job. Your panelists today are Miss Lita and Miss Anita. Miss Lita will go first.
Good job, Wanson.
Yeah, thank you, Miss.
I would like to ask first, why do you choose this topic?
It is because I see that actually Indonesia has uh, many resources, many natural resources that was like given by God as a blessing. And I think if Indonesia can manage to use the resources wisely, Indonesia can be a developing countries. Yeah. And I see that most of my friends from these few past days, most of them come up with ideas about improving Indonesia. But all of them comes with a same problem, which is corruption. So I guess that corruption is like a very big problem in Indonesia.
Okay, thank you. Uh, do you, what do you think? I mean, have you done any research whether or not Indonesia have death penalty as punishment arranged by anti-corruption law?
So actually, Indonesia has made a law, which is Undang-Undang Number 31 in the year of 1999, which was changed in Undang-Undang Number 20 in year 2001. At first, Indonesia has implemented the death penalty, but only in certain cases, which is if Indonesia is experiencing like natural disaster or they are having a huge problem in the country itself. For example, during the COVID-19. Yeah.
So then, to what extent do you think the death penalty should be implemented?
The death penalty should be implemented to all kinds of corruption because small corruption could lead or triggers into larger amount of corruption. Yeah. So Indonesia should be consistent in implementing the death penalty.
Okay, you say any corruption, right? So, because you said in the beginning of the definition of corruption, including also give bribes, right? Small corruption, such as, for example, give bribe to the police when we didn't follow the rule of, what happened on the street. Should we have death penalty as well?
It should be implemented because by having a death penalty, it will create a potent deterrence. And as time continues, I believe that by implementing this penalty, it will raise the awareness, which lead to less cases that could happen. Because I believe also, like, for example, small sins and big sins, both are still same. It's a sin. It's the same in cases of corruption. Small corruption and big corruption is still a corruption. So I would like to avoid the mindset of having small corruption, but they keep on doing it and creating a huge amount of money at the end. Yeah.
Okay, so from there, what if, not what if, actually that's what happened. What if the corruption is becoming systemic? It means the system was corrupt, right? So should we apply the death penalty? I cannot imagine, maybe we have to apply all death penalty to all the government officials. Are you sure about it?
The system and the laws should go together. So I think it's impossible if we only fix the system without evaluating the laws itself. And to create a good system, it needs education. And I think this education, the good education, should have enough investment and money. And with the corruption still occurring in Indonesia, I think it's hard to create a good education.
Okay. Thank you. It seems that you are so enthusiastic in applying this death penalty. Anyway, but what if there's wrong accusation? Because I read your reputation that you propose there's a really good system, not good system, like forensic accounting and other things. What if we're focusing on making better forensic, like tracing rather than giving the death penalty directly? Do you think should we focusing more in creating a better system and also better education about corruption rather than implementing death penalty directly?
It would be a good idea. However, based on the past cases in Indonesia, they have used many types of laws, many types of system. However, all those systems are not implemented well. For example, the Sukamiskin prison, in which the corruptors could buy luxurious facilities. It shows how actually it's hard for Indonesia to do not give capital punishment because people do not respect the rules anymore.
Related with capital punishment and death penalty, if someone was wrongly accused and then they are in jail, actually it's easy because they don't lose their life, right? But do you think it's seeing from human can make mistake and also could, there's possible that human was wrongly accused? It seems that, is it too, I mean, not too strict maybe. Does it seem that we are playing like God in this case?
Can you clarify the question?
So by giving penalty, it seems that death penalty, it seems that we don't really have a chance for people to repent, right? It seems that one miss or one sin, because you said we need to eradicate the corruption behaviors until the small things. It seems that we didn't give a chance for people to repent. So what do you think about that?
Okay. By implementing the death penalty, I'm sure that Indonesia people will be aware of it, and in that period of time, they have the chance to whether they can decide whether they want to continue doing corruption or not. I believe that that's the chance where they can stop and repent, because the death penalty is not directly accused to people. They have the time limit where they can show up themselves and tell whether they repent or not.
Okay, we need to move to Miss Anita. Okay.
Just one last question.
Okay.
What should we do with the corrupted funds?
That's why it's very important to have the death penalty, because one of the issue is the funds that is corrupted. So by having the death penalty, it will give the potent deterrence. Psychologically, it will hinders the corruptors to commit corruption on the funds. Thank you.
Wanson, I really enjoy your presentation. I think you have a really, extensive kind of research. And I want to ask about the ethical framework, because using capital punishment for corruption in a democratic society, and then how this reconcile with Indonesian human rights obligation under the international law, because we are obligated to respect human rights, the rights to live, and then by giving death penalty means we violate that.
Okay. So first of all, actually Indonesia have implemented the death penalty in 4 sectors, which is the drugs, the terrorist actions, planned murdering, and corruption. And if I can compare Indonesia with drugs, which the death penalty is consistently applied in drugs, 5 grams of drugs is given the death penalty, and 5 grams of drugs is equal to 7.5 million rupiah. So actually, these past days, there's many corruption cases which has great amount of money, exceeding the 7.5 million rupiah. So actually, it shows how serious and how actually Indonesia should implement the death penalty. because even drugs, which only cost 7.5 million, are given a death penalty.
Okay, but like, to be honest, like death penalty for corruption, kind of like, did it ever happen before? I know the drugs one because we shot, I think, the the foreigners from forgot what country, but for corruption, is it ever happen like the death penalty for corruption?
Yeah.
Ever?
That's the problem in Indonesia, which they do not consistently apply the death penalty. While my thesis, I want to promote that it should be consistently. Yeah. Like they should be brave to use the death penalty.
Rather than death penalty, why do you think it is more, effective? Why not asset forfeiture, like the one that we already proposed but never, approved in?
Okay. So the death penalty has a psychologically effect. One of the theory is the protection motivation theory, which people will protect themselves if they are trapped with the emotion of fear, and also the fear avoidance model, which an individual will avoid situations that display pain. Yeah. So I think it would be effective.
Sorry, this is just a random question that I have in my mind. So, would people be afraid of? I don't know. In my mind, people would be afraid of getting poor rather than die. Since I think that's what happened. That's why the asset forfeiture never happened, because people are afraid getting poor rather than, if you got like death penalty, then that's it. Rather than poor for like 7 generations or something like that. But okay, that's interesting.
Miss,
Yeah.
can I give a comment on
Okay, yeah, sure.
Without implementing the death penalty and choosing to making the family poor, it doesn't close the case that that family will repeat the same mistake, because there's a possibility if they continue to have the feeling to do corruption and receive more money. That's why I think through death penalty, it shows that this individual would not repeat the same mistake again.
Yeah, because they die.
Yeah.
How can I repeat? Okay, but yeah, sure, for fear. But okay, so compare. Okay, I think Miss Lita haven't talked about corruption perception. Okay, so the corruption perception index from 0 to 100, 100 being the least corrupt, and then 0 means the most corrupt. China ranked 43, Indonesia ranked 37, and then this prove that death penalty is not that effective. There's Singapore and a Scandinavian country that for sure reduce corruption without using the death penalty. So why weren't these highlighted more?
Because Indonesia has a different habit with Singapore. For example, not an example, I mean the history of Indonesia back again during the Kulturstelsel era, in which during that time the government already implement the corruption in the funds. So it shows that this problem is already rooted deep down in Indonesia culture.
But I think compared to China, China have different government system than us. Because China is a communist country with kind of limit press freedom and judicial transparency compared to Indonesia, which is democratic. So, do you have any comment about that? Because we don't have the same government system.
Okay. Can you give me time to think?
Yes.
Okay. As a democratic nation, we listen to the voice of the people. And based on my research and all the cases that have been found, many cases disadvantage the people. And people are started to give their voice to start to stop corruption. It shows how actually the people they hope that corruption stops. Yeah. So yeah, they have the same focus and purpose, which is to stop the corruption.
Okay. All right. What can I ask one more? Okay. So you say that education have a very important role in eradicating corruption. So what role should civic education and public engagement probably play in the eradicating corruption? Because I don't think you mentioned about civic education, correct, in your thesis. So what do you think about that?
It is important to educate the people, for example, by giving the moral values, because I believe that sharing moral values doesn't need any funds. It's based on our ethical values. And also, actually, this country give many funds to the natural science sector. And I think it's important if the government start to fund their money to the social science sector, because by learning about social science, we know how a political system should run well and how education should run well. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Wanson. Good job. Well done.
Thank you, Miss.
Have a few more questions. So one of the things that some of your peers have brought up, and I sort of worry about too, is that if you take a corrupt country and you start giving people who are accused of corruption the death penalty, it seems like that could actually backfire on you. And what you end up with are the most corrupt people framing their enemies and having them put out legally, having them taken out of the system. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How do you ensure that doesn't happen? I mean, it sounds a little bit like some other countries that I don't think we want to be like, right?
In this case, it is important for the judges in the TP Corps to be dedicated so that they will have the bravery to stand up and give justice to the high government officials.
So how do you ensure that? How do you ensure that your highest judges in the land are not also corrupt? I know that the answer is give them the death penalty, but sometimes when you're that high up, you're very good at insulating yourself, right? So what do you think?
Education is important in this case, because by dedicating the judges, they will live justice.
Don't you think that of all kinds of crimes, corruption is probably one of the easier ones to frame somebody with, right? Isn't it easy for me to, if I'm a high-ranking official in some big part of the government, it seems like that I could create a false paper trail to accuse Miss Lita or somebody of corruption, right? Don't you think that might be a problem?
Yeah, in this issue, technology play a important role in having an accurate target.
And so another question is that, and this comes from one of your peers as well, is that in a typically, maybe not always, I know there's little bits of corruption everywhere, but often corruption involves many people, a single corruption. And the person that takes the blame often is down low on the totem pole, down low on he's the lower guy. The upper guy who's in charge of it all, getting tons of money, has very carefully and craftily insulated himself from it, where all the money he receives has been washed in a way that's impossible or almost impossible to tell. Isn't it not fair? Aren't you putting to death the lower guys on the in the chain of command instead of the one who really needs it? Is that possible?
There's this one case, which is the case of a lawyer, which is Ari Bakri. and he was found guilty. But after he was caught by the KPK, he opened all of his partners. And in this case, I think by throwing the death penalty to this one people, he will open all of his teams because he want a fair punishment also to his team. Yeah.
Okay, good. Time is up. Thank you, Wanson.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Wanson. We will meet over here with friends, family, panelists, and advisor for photos, and then we will start at about